What is the best possible path for you to become a DevOps engineer? My name is Broadus. I'm founder of Level Up in Tech, and my job is to help you learn cloud, land a job, and make money. And this is a question that we get all the time in my inbox. So why not give you just a comprehensive guide to start learning DevOps and how to become a cloud DevOps engineer? Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you some things that you should be learning, and we're going to cover a long list of things. With that being said, some of you may even just get a job without learning all of these things, and some of you may learn all of these things and may have to add a little bit more into your transferable skills to be able to land something. What I'm trying to say is everyone's journey is different. Your journey is different than the next person. So when we're trying to compare, there is no comparison because your life is not like theirs. And you may have to go through some things that they may not have to go through, or they may have to go through some things that you may not have to. Okay. So this comprehensive guide is just a guide. Okay. So pay attention, take notes as we're going to talk about this. So the number one thing you should learn is the basics, right? So understand Linux or Windows and scripting in that. So once you understand how servers work and how servers are just computers that you can just configure to your liking or to your business need, then all the manual things we do on that server, we can figure out how to use scripting to automate our task, right? So one thing that I want you to leave with this uh, in this video is this: the best engineers are the laziest engineers because they figured out how to automate a chunk of their manual tasks to focus on the critical task of the job. Okay. Now, once you learn about the servers and you learn how to script to automate your tasks, now we can look at programming. How do we script things, or how do we program and automate some of these things we're doing on the server with Python as well? And if you're doing Windows, you may want to do PowerShell. So learning the basics is understanding the computer, how it works, how you configure it, and then how you automate your critical tasks. Then for number two, we understand version control and how version control works. How does Git work locally, and how does GitHub work as a center repo? So all the scripts and all the programming you're going to be doing on your computer, we need somewhere to push them so we can always have this code available for your team or for anybody you want to collaborate with that can actually just make the code better and better. The gist is just to improve on the code and make sure you're collaborating with other people to help them as well. Because if you're storing your code on your computer, what happens if your computer goes down and breaks and crashes and burns? Or let's say an earthquake hits your house and boom, your computer's gone, right? We want to make sure we don't store everything locally, but we're storing it in a version control system or center repo where the code can actually live, and you can always pull it to improve on it. Or if you're working with a mentor, you're working with somebody you're collaborating with, you can go and pull that code and work on it together, or they can pull it by themselves and make some improvement and give some notes and push it back to the repo. All right. Now, number three is where people tend to have analysis paralysis. It's diving into the cloud platform. So understanding the fundamentals and the foundations of the cloud platform you want to use, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, whether it's GCP, whether it's Alibaba, or whether it's Oracle. It doesn't matter which cloud service provider you choose. If you're in the US, most likely you're going to choose AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Oracle. But the gist of it is just choose one, learn it, learn the foundations, and get great at working in that environment. Okay. Now, once you get great at working in an environment, you've done some things, you built some things, then you can move on to another one to see how it's some common things that you can build that you build in AWS. How does it look if you build it in Azure? Or if you build it in Azure, how does it look if you built it in GCP? We don't need to get stuck on what's best, right? We just get stuck on learning every day Hey, how can I get better at learning every single day? So now I've worked on the computers, right? And this information aligns with just me knowing that the cloud is just a bunch of servers. That's what you will find out when you learn the basics of Linux or Windows. You will know that cloud is just a bunch of Linux servers, and everything ties together with your knowledge from automation, configuring those computers, to doing the same thing on the cloud. All the networking, um, the databases, everything is typically the same that you work on your local machine. It's just in a broad spectrum that, these services are for everyone now to use. All right. So, foundations of cloud, right? Learn how to get better in working in a cloud service provider environment. And then when you feel comfortable and you've done some things, you deploy some things, you know how things work, then you can move on to another one and learn the foundations of that. You're not going to be a master. You're not going to be an expert. The goal is to just keep getting better every day. Put in your mind, can I just continue to do what I need to do to get better without seeing the result immediately? Okay. The next one is we're going to talk about getting hands on with continuous integration and continuous delivery tools. So, how does this work? Okay. I'm working with code, and how do I deploy this code to make sure this code is working and is functionally working and integrated with the services that I want to integrate it with to deploy to the end user and get feedback about my code in the process. That's typically what continuous integration and delivery is. Now, there are several tools you can use for continuous integration and continuous delivery. Pick one. I mean, you have, for a little old fashioned, is Jenkins, but new players, GitLab, Circle CI, you got HashiCorp Cloud Platform. You got a lot of services to use for continuous integration and continuous delivery. Pick one, just like a cloud platform. Don't get stuck on, oh, which one is the best. Learn the process, because the process stays the same while the tooling can change, right? We have several different tools to accomplish what we need to accomplish, but the process of continuous integration and continuous delivery stays the same. All right. Now, next, this is up for debate because some companies use it and some companies use it in a siloed department, which means even if you're a DevOps engineer, you may not touch these services or even understand how this process works. But it's great to learn it. Configuration management. So, how do we continuously configure our computers that we use and update our computers and patch our computers through a service that can do many computers at once? So, we look at services like Ansible. Puppet is a little old fashioned. Chef is a little old fashioned, but companies still use them. And it's important, once again, to not get mixed or stuck on which one is best. It's just all about understanding the process and then understanding the service that you want to use and learn, whether it's Ansible, right? Understand how that works, work with it a little bit, integrate it in your process and see how it works. Break things, right? Break it, break it. That's how you learn. You get these long error messages with using Jenkins or using Ansible, whatever. It's best for you to research and understand what's going on. The struggle that you go through now and the struggle that you have with trying to fix things is only going to build you stronger for the role. All right. So, quick pause. I want to say, for those of you who are serious about leveling up as a cloud engineer or a cloud DevOps engineer or consultant, etc., we have a free group. It's called the Cloud Career Accelerator. It's in the descriptions of the video. Click on the link. We got free courses, free starter courses, free projects. We have live events. We have a ton of content that can help you move from one level to the next, regardless of where you are. So even if you have no understanding of what this thing called cloud computing is, this can help you start, understand if you like it or not, and move to the next level. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is containers and orchestration of those containers. So you have these applications that you're building and these services that you're working with, how can we containerize them and how we can orchestrate those containers by delivering and deploying them to the end users. So if something happens, let's say our system goes down or our container crashes or a um, application in the container crashes, we can have another one up in seconds. This is called containerization and orchestration. And the two key services that you will use with that is Docker and Kubernetes. Docker is fun to learn and it's fun to work with. And once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to do a lot of things with Docker and just learning the networking within Docker itself, right? It can put you on top of competition because a lot of people see Docker and Kubernetes and they get scared. Kubernetes is typically complicated. Take your time learning it. You don't have to master Kubernetes. If you understand how to deploy a cluster, you understand how to check out your nodes, check out pods, you know, use services and deploy application, using Kubernetes, then you're already on top. A lot of people just shortchange themselves because they try to become the Kubernetes expert, and there's no reason to become the Kubernetes expert. It's really all about, can you use the tool and can you figure out how to use the tool in the manner that the company wants you to use it. And I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes it is stressful if you get into a role and they ask you to use Kubernetes. And most of the time, I want to tell you this right now. Listen to me. Most of the time, if a company is very adamant of you knowing Kubernetes in depth, then most of the time, you're probably going to be one of the few people who use Kubernetes in the job. So you're going to be a go-to person, right? So, but with that being said, a lot of people have gotten roles without really becoming a master in Kubernetes or orchestration, right? They've learned how to deploy things. They've learned how to use orchestration and Docker, which is called Rancher. It's a Docker product, but also learn orchestration with Kubernetes. And they're not masters at all. They just learn how to deploy, learn how to do it, check out applications, look at YAML files, and deploy those applications or deploy those clusters through the YAML files. And that's it. The other experience comes on the job. All right. Now, next, you want to look at understanding monitoring and logging. So it's a lot of monitoring and logging services out there. A cloud service provider has their own, to third-party services that can manage, monitoring and log, your containers, your orchestration of those containers, which is Prometheus, Grafana, you got Elk Stack. Check out one, Datadog. Check out one. You don't have to become a master. You just need to understand what this service is and how it's used, and maybe even talk about some of your practicing of using these services, even if you have to pay to understand how it works. Spending a little cash up front to ensure you can out beat the competition when you get into an interview to talk about how you understand monitoring and logging is great, right? So that investment is going to pay off over time and tenfold. Okay. So don't be scared to invest in yourself when it comes to learning this stuff. Like, a lot of people want to come in and say, I want to learn for free, for free, for free. That's cool. There's a ton of resources out there. But a lot of people are doing themselves a disservice of learning for free because what happens is they know the type of person they are. And this means is they sit back and say, okay, I know I have a tendency to quit, or if things get too hard, I'll just put it down. So I don't want to invest in anything because I may be learning for 2 weeks, but I might put this down for another 2, 3, 4 months and come back to it later. So investing in yourself holds yourself accountable. All right. So free resources totally out there, but don't be afraid to spend money on yourself because you're betting on yourself. And I will bet on myself any day before I invest in anything else. All right. So you always can get the return on investment if you don't quit. All right. Now, we know all of these things that we have to learn. Once we learn them, we have to just continuously stay updated and getting better every single day, right? One person may say, I'll get a certification in AWS and that's it. You have to continuously learn because tech changes so much. So this means you need to join communities like the one I just told you about, right? There's so many communities out here on Discord. Important books we need to read, right? One of the things that we don't do as a person who's trying to go to the next level is read. There's so much information out here, current information that can help you understand where this technology is going, where AI is going, where cloud is going, where cloud native tools are going. And just reading a article a day can put your brain in a space where now you understand how these things are impacting organizations around the world. And if you could understand that, and if you could communicate your knowledge on that, like have a simple conversation of where this thing is going or where you think it's going, the tech can be taught, right? It's the discipline and understanding where the tech is going and being curious enough to figure out if you want to learn the services and systems that are going to be the forefront of where it's going. Hope that makes sense to y'all. The books you're going to read is The Phoenix Project. That's a number one book for people who want to learn DevOps. It definitely teaches you how the DevOps methodology can help a company go to market faster, improve faster, and support the customer even faster. Right? It talks about a person who is working at a company who didn't adopt any of these principles at all. And once they adopted the principles, how the company started to change and how that person started to climb the ranks. Another book is the DevOps Handbook. I don't know if it's updated yet, but there's an older version out there that it may cause some confusion because of outdated technology. But if the book has been updated, definitely check out that book. Reading is fundamental. I would say, spend 15 minutes reading every day. It might sound like a lot, but it can definitely improve your cognitive skill of just understanding and communicating and using your transferable skills that you already have to put yourself in position to communicate what you think DevOps is and how are you working to become a DevOps engineer and how you're going to be an asset to a company. All right. So I wanted to give y'all the game and I wanted to break it down in a simple term, right? For those who don't know what this is, I wanted to break it down and what you should do. Rewatch this video. All you have to do, all the tools and services or the processes that I mentioned, just Google them. A ton of free resources will come up. Some resources you may have to pay for, especially if you're using free tier with the cloud service providers. If you're done with that, if you've used up your free tier, you now have to start paying for the cloud service providers services. All right. But this is a comprehensive guide that can give you the best possible path to becoming a DevOps engineer. All right. Make sure you share this resource with somebody who needs to see this. Make sure you check out everything else on the YouTube channel. My job is to help you learn cloud, land a job, and make money. Thank you so much for watching. Love you all. See you in the next one.